Welcome to Hell Let Loose, a brand new, realistic World War II shooter being developed by Black Matter, an Australian dev studio. And before we get into some of the details, let me first say that this won't be your average World War II shooter. The devs are going all in on features and layers of information, teamwork and communication, and they appear to be creating something fairly advanced. Don't expect a Call of Duty or a Battlefield clone. They're going in a totally different direction. Another point I'd like to make as well, this is a work in progress, and all this information is being offered out by the developers on their website. As with anything that's unfinished, take this all with a pinch of salt. Until we see some proper gameplay and some content for the title, we won't know if the developers will be able to deliver on their word. Hell Let Loose is running on the Unreal Engine 4, as with a lot of other World War II shooters nowadays, so you can expect a good scale of graphical quality. The engine can be used to make games look extremely pretty. The developers are calling Hell Let Loose a Platoon-based, realistic multiplayer, first-person shooter for the PC set during the Second World War, and it will incorporate huge battles up to 100 players per game. That's a lofty goal to try and reach. Those 100 players will be scattered across a 1-to-1 scale, 4-kilometer square map. That's pretty huge, and you're going to need to use teamwork and tactics to win the battle. Players will be able to pick from limited roles within their platoon when they're going into battle, and they'll have to work under officers and a commander who will direct the overall strategy. The large maps that you'll play on are split up into sectors which need to be fought for, dominated, and then captured. Rather than focusing on these smaller zones like flags in Battlefield, the entire map is a capture zone, and it's dominating the territory and capturing it from the opposing team that will allow you to push forwards. That's a fairly interesting concept. Anywhere on the map within that sector, and you could be having an influence on the battle. Now, once you capture one of these sectors, a resource will be generated for your team, and that can be chosen from a list of 3. This will then influence how you can push on and take the next sector on the map. The map itself, which has been rolling around in the background with those images that I'm showing you, is called a theatre of war. The developers will let players loose in the sleepy town of Saint-Marie-du-Mont on D-Day 1944, during Operation Overlord. The setting offers forest areas, the quintessential hedgerows sectioning off fields, small canals, and even some urban locations with multiple towns and villages scattered right across the map. That'll create some more intense fighting. According to the developers, at the moment, and wait for this, it takes roughly 15 minutes to walk across the map on foot. That's absolutely huge, and as the map is square, rather than a linear layout, the front line that's been created between the two armies that are fighting against each other, that can change all the time, because you've got 50 players on each team spread right across this 4-kilometer map. There's lots more routes that can be taken to either flank round defences, or you can pierce right through the line and break into enemy territory. Now, earlier I mentioned platoons, officers, and commanders. They all come into the mix during the battles that you'll be playing out within 3 different levels of warfare the developers are trying to create. Now, first of all, you've got strategic warfare. You can play as the commander and decide the overarching direction of the battle, and then adapt that as the battle plays out. You'll be able to communicate with your troops via radio, you can summon in reinforcements, summon supplies, and even heavy strikes from air and naval craft as you try and force back the other army and take even more ground. Secondly, we have operational warfare, and this is something that I haven't really seen executed in FPS games for quite a while. You're going to have to establish supply lines, bringing trucks, transport vehicles and armour from the base up to the front line where infantry will be waiting for you. If you fail to keep your front line well stocked with ammunition and the armour needed to resist attack, then you're likely going to see all of your work collapse very quickly. And third, we have tactical warfare, something that probably most people are quite familiar with. You can play as an officer whose job it is to man the front line with defences, observation posts and garrisons before you then set tasks for the soldiers in your unit. You'll be able to mark enemy targets with binoculars and then notify the commander of your findings so they can direct the battle in the best way. Now, beyond all these strategic mechanics and things that you have to do depending on what role you're going to play, things are fairly complex here, more so than most other FPS games that are on the market at the moment. It's no surprise that when it comes to weaponry, you'll be seeing a very similar level of realism and authenticity. Currently, there are 16 or so weapons included in the game: submachine guns, light machine guns, heavy machine guns, assault rifles and pistols will all be available to you, but there's going to be some realistic limitations. There's going to be no crosshair to help you aim, guns will overheat and jam, and there's a heavy suppression system that will force you to take cover when you're confronted by the enemy. Grenades, mines, mortars, heavy ordnance, and anti-tank weaponry will be included, along with a flamethrower to light up the fields of France. In total, there are 14 different roles in the game that you can pick from, and each of these will be assigned different weaponry and tools suited to their task that the role needs to perform. When it comes to vehicles, once again the development team are going all out here. The plan is to have up to 20 vehicles included in the game, eventually, each of which falls into different categories. You've got supply, transport, light armour, medium armour, heavy armour, mobile artillery, tank destroyer, assault gun, half-track, scout, and repair. All of the choices for every single player. The developers will be first focusing on supply and transport vehicles to make sure the infantry are well stocked and have the choice to move about the map, with the inclusion of heavier armour coming later on. This may mean, as the game goes into early access, you're not going to be likely to see all of those vehicle categories from the start. Once this game does go into early access and eventually gets released in 2018, including that first map, you're going to get to play as the German Army and the United States Army. That's pretty standard for a World War II game these days, and as the development team completes more content, it's likely we'll see British, Russian, and Imperial Japanese forces making their way into the game as well. That's likely quite a way off, however. Destruction of the environment will be a thing in Hell Let Loose. I can see everybody cheering down in the comments section, but only where it makes sense to the gameplay and doesn't degrade the performance of the network. They're prioritizing the player count up to 100 players over the destructibility of absolutely everything in the game. At the moment, I think bridges, fences, walls, and bushes are included in the destruction. Moving on, Gore is something the developers are working on as well. They're working towards dismemberment, although it's not currently complete, but there will be a wounding system in the game as well. Depending on where you take damage on your body, the damage will have different effects. So if you get shot in the arms or the legs, you'll be able to sort yourself out, but if you get shot in the chest, you're going to need the medic to come and help you out. Now, all of that sounds like a very optimistic roadmap for a game produced by an indie studio. No disrespect to the developers at all, but it sounds like they're trying to bring some real-time strategy elements into a first-person shooter. Now, I watched another video on this game earlier on today from a YouTuber called Lutin. His video is linked down below, and he made a very good point that concerns me as much as it did him. Gamers in 2017 may not have the patience to wait for supplies to arrive so they can fire their gun again. That's just an example. Are they going to get annoyed that the panzer tank that they need to look after and protect is taking ages to get to the front line? Are these gamers going to care enough to actively work as a team and communicate? Because the entire game is built upon that. Or do they just want to roll up with some massive machine gun and try and kill people? To me, this game sounds absolutely awesome, but are the gamers out there going to play the game properly so all of these mechanics come together? That remains to be seen. But anyway, that was our first look and read-up of the new World War II shooter called Hell Let Loose. I'll be keeping close tabs on this game moving forwards. It does sound very, very interesting, and the team are looking to have the game in a closed pre-alpha state by October 2017, so not far away, and then have the game released on Steam in early 2018. That sounds like a very short timeline. Let me know what you think of all this down below in the comments section. Let me know if you're interested and excited about this new game. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.